Coffee with Mary. Let's get into it. Okay, cultural differences between Silicon Valley and Sicily. They both start with the same two letters, but they're planets apart. So, since being back 2 weeks now, here's some of the things that I noticed. The attention on having a fancy car. Now, I used to have fancy cars. So I can speak on this because now I have an old car that's paid for, and I've noticed the difference. So, see, when you've had the fancy and then you decide, wait, that's not important. After being in Sicily, so I wasn't driving at all. I wasn't thinking about what cars people owned or anything like that. It's where I stayed was a walking historic section, so there wasn't a consciousness about that. Now, maybe it's there and I didn't notice it, but I don't think it's anywhere near what it's like here with the Teslas, where Tesla was invented in Palo Alto. The Porsches, the Lamborghinis, I don't even notice them anymore because there's so many. Mercedes-Benz, Beamers, I mean, all of it. In fact, when people that don't live here come and go, oh my God, there's a Lamborghini, it's like, so? That's something you can see every day here, so what? But here's what I noticed about myself. I was flipping through my social media on Instagram, looking at other people. I spend time looking at what other people and content creators are doing. And I noticed I just didn't care about the celebrities like I did before. Now, many of you are past that, but all of a sudden I realized how fake. Yeah, of course they can have fancy clothes and perfect facials and, all that. I mean, yeah, if you spend all your time thinking about how you look, you're probably going to look pretty good. So, it was nice to be in southern Italy where, people do, well, it's not like northern Italy at all. People do think about, of course, how they look. Look at this guy here. No. She wants to get in on the action, Olive. But it's very different. It's more of like this, no, stop, do not. It's more of like this arrogance kind of thing where, you're expected to have something fancy and, I can sometimes tell when I pull up in my 2006 van, but it's paid for and it's well maintained, so I'm fine with it. It's interesting how you can be perceived in a way that when you get older like me, it's so great because you don't have to care. You notice it, but it's like, really? Is that what you're judging me by? That's pretty shallow. I mean, listen, I used to do it too. I used to be more conscious of all the accoutrements because I was buying them all. I was buying $400 shoes and spending, $6,000 on a Hawaii vacation that only lasted 10 days. And that was in the 1990s, not currently. So it's interesting to look at both sides of it and then culturally be in different cultures where you can see how they perceive just by living among them. Like, you're going to find out a lot more about a culture just by drinking with the local people, eating with the local people, taking the transportation that they take. Like the first time I went to Italy, I wasn't aware of the fact that you could actually be quite wealthy but not have a fancy car and take the train all the time. Like, I just didn't know. Like, for example, in Paris, I think she did have a car, but, she was riding her bike. She could have been age 70. and lived in a fancy apartment. My friend, hi there. Well, I rented a room from her, and she's wonderful. And I noticed that a lot of other women, men, all ages, were riding their bikes in Paris too. Now, if you ride your bike here, it's not a practical utilitarian thing. It's a $2,000 bike minimum that you have all the fancy accoutrements for what you wear to ride. And, that's a prevalent culture here. But it was neat to see in Paris how, women that were actually very nicely dressed, of any age, even older than me, were riding their bikes. Like they didn't, I just love that it's not perceived as, oh, where's your fancy car? Like, that's great. But mainly, I like the culture the best in southern Sicily because it's very relaxed. People have fun. There's not an emphasis on fancy purses and expensive watches. Not that I noticed. Fancy jewelry. The top of the minute clothing. For example, the wonderful people I rented my apartment from in Sheffield, they're doing their cleaning themselves that own it. They're doing the cleaning. That's admirable. I don't think that would happen here in Silicon Valley. And it's like, I had more respect for them because they were doing the cleaning. They did the cleaning. Great. Thank you. So my point is that people get involved rather than in a culture that really works. People get involved rather than kind of just making an assumption about it. Now, I can talk about this culture because I've lived in this area for over 30 years and I've seen it change. And it's interesting to see the changes and how people, myself included, come here and can make a living. But honestly, living in Italy and Mexico, as I've done every year for the past 4 years, for some of the year, I see a side of life that's not so prevalent here. Family, Sundays, everything's closed, everybody's with their family. That wouldn't happen here. I mean, all the stores are open, hospitals are open on Sundays. I mean, yeah, I've been going to church sometimes and seeing that side of life, but it doesn't go into the whole day. So I just want to end with really culturally, there's quite a big difference. There's pros and cons. Let me just end with a few pros about being back in the USA. It is a place where you can do well financially. Now, currently, a lot of people are struggling. And I would say that because of that, it's more being divided between the super rich people and the people at the bottom without having a middle part. But that didn't used to be so true as it is now. But, I've weathered 2 economic crashes in Silicon Valley where it was painfully clear that I had to get 4 jobs at one point. And it really taught me a lot. That was the first one. Because I've had my own business for over 30 years, and all of a sudden it completely dried up because nobody had money for luxury photography. I mean, people moved to Oregon overnight, stock options were lost. People lost a lot of money. But I still had all my same bills, over $2,000 in rent, and this was in the early 2000s, 2002 or 2001, something like that. That first one. Anyway, let's end with the positive and just see that living life, think about this, not the appearance of something and how you think people will be impressed, or, and, you know, just get away from the whole being impressed thing. Like, impress yourself if you want to, with what you're doing, or, you know, goals of yours, but spend a lot less time buying things and thinking about how other people will respond to them. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.